Hi everyone, this is Stefan from BigNoise Amplification, coming at you from the wild west coast of Te Waiponamu, the South Island of New Zealand. Thanks for tuning in. I do get asked at times, what's actually on your pedalboard, Mr. BigNoise? What do you have on yours, Stefan? So this is my main pedalboard, and I'll talk you through it and show you what it is. Anyway, so first of all, size-wise, there's a lot going on, I think, more than I really would need, but it's also great fun anyway. But really, there's no normal pedalboard, is there? I guess every pedalboard looks different and yours will be looking different too, and that's great. Mine is of course quite important. I love doing this. I enjoy it. I get a lot of inspiration out of it, and it's a lot of testing for me because of course the pedals that I make, that I fine-tune and tweak, I need to play myself back home as well as in band, live setting and stuff like that, and see how they work to make them the best they can be. That's what I try and enjoy it along the way. So anyway, the size of this is 830 by 340 millimeters, so it's not that super big. It's quite strong. It's made on an aluminum frame. Maybe I'll find a photo to blend in right now here. There it is. Anyway, so yeah, let's get started. So the signal from the guitar goes in here. This is basically a bit of a junction box where the signal goes in and comes out. But it's actually also more, there's a buffer in here, which I can switch on and off, which is quite useful, because sometimes you want a buffer at the front, and also if there's a noticeable difference in signal between the buffered and unbuffered signal, it would be a sign that one of the cables is loose or there's something going on which isn't quite right. So there shouldn't be any signal loss, and the buffer would show that up. At the moment I have it mainly switched off because of the fuzz phase, and we'll come to that in a minute. But from the junction box, it goes first into the wah pedal, which looks like a normal Vox wah pedal, but it isn't. It's completely gutted, and on the inside there's the BigNoise wah circuit in, which really works well for me, and I put this one in with tweak options so I can change capacitor values and resistor values in there from the outside with switches, which allows to fine-tune the sound and tweak it. It also has a relay bypass, true bypass switching system rather than the clunky mechanical switches that like to break down and that you have to replace every 3.5 weeks or something like that. Anyway, so that's my wah pedal. From the wah pedal it goes into the only commercially bought pedal on this board apart from BigNoise amplification stuff, which is the TC Electronics tuner. Works as a tuner just like that, great stuff. After the tuner we come into the liquid amber fuzz. The liquid amber fuzz is the brainchild of Dave at Celestial Engineering and myself. It's a great collaboration, and Dave is a genius. He's a rocket scientist, he really is. I've got witnesses for that. So he had a lot of work in this to develop the classical fuzz phase, germanium fuzz phase, into the modern times by adding a tone control, a contour control which allows for lots of different shades. There's a bias control, and also internally it has a bias control circuit that keeps the bias as it's set in at the same level independent of temperature, which is great because germanium transistors are fantastic, but they have as a downside that they're quite sensitive to temperature ambience changes. So anyway, this sounds fantastic and it's very versatile, and it's at the front of the chain because it reacts very well to the volume pot on the guitar. That's why I have at the moment the buffer mainly switched off, because that allows me to really work with the volume guitar pot to get different sounds out of the fuzz, which is right at the front. Next one, also fairly much at the front, similar thing in a way, it's an Autowah, and it reacts very much to the picking strength and the control that you have with your fingers on it, and to volume pot to create different effects of swell of the wah pedal. Fantastic pedal, very vocal sounding. I dig this. Great design. Similar here, this is the prototype of the Vibrochamp tremolo, which is also envelope controlled. So it allows to have control over the amount of tremolo and the speed of the tremolo with your picking strength. I really need to make a separate video about that because it's very clever. This is the prototype, and the final version will come to the market very soon, and I hope to have a demo of that ready for you. From here we go into the mild and wild booster. And mild and wild is actually two circuits, two independent circuits in one. There's on the mild side, there's the very clean and pristine booster that makes everything sounds a bit crisper and cleaner and pushes the clean sound and makes it a little bit brighter, and it's a very clean boost. If you switch it over to the wild side, it becomes like a single knob fuzz, so it's really a dirty pushing booster that you can crank up in volume. Also very sensitive to the picking attack and the volume pot, so it really helps to work with that as well, to create different shades and just take the aggressiveness of the fuzz back if you want to. Very clever, 2 circuits in one, twice the value for it. This one is another fantastic collaboration between Celestial Engineering and BigNoise Amplification. It's the Doppler Vibe. And that's of course a fantastic version of a Univibe with extras, a modernized version which allows to have a control that blends between the vibe and the chorus setting on the traditional Univibe, which is its own sound. It's really not a chorus as such. The Univibe is a very unique thing. Please check out the demo, then you'll hear why. And we've got a color knob. And a color knob also allows control over the intensity of the light bulb that's in there, because there's a real light bulb and 4 photoresistors like in a Univibe should be in there, and that allows to control the intensity of them, which gives different shades of frequency response. From the Doppler Vibe we go into the phaser here. The phaser is a version of a Mootron phaser, and at the moment I'm kind of debating if I make this one, which will be staple in BigNoise, but I also have another surprise one coming up which is not on the moment in here. It's up in Auckland at Warren Mendonça for demoing. Warren is a busy guy, a fantastic guitarist. You'll know him under the name of Blackstrap Blues. Check him out, and I hope to see the demo soon, Warren. And then from there we go into the Celestial Boost, which, as the name says, another brainchild of Dave at Celestial Engineering and myself, BigNoise Amplification. So the Celestial Boost is basically a version, a modernized version of the classic sound of the Rangemaster treble booster. The Rangemaster had just one knob, louder, that's it. But this one allows for gain and volume, so you don't have to crank it to break the windows in the room to get already the good sound. Plus it has a bass and treble tone stack which allows to shape the sound quite a lot more, but it really allows the kind of same kind of driving your amp or driving the drive pedals after that to give it that push and that classic rock sound that goes into that direction of famous users of the Rangemaster like Rory Gallagher, Brian May, Tommy Iommi and those people. So great to push your amp, great to push other dirt pedals. That brings me to the next pedal here, the 50 Pounds Overdrive, which is a version, a mix between a tube screamer and a Timmy pedal. So it covers really both directions depending how you set the quite efficient tone stack, treble, middle, bass tone stack. So, and you can really cover the ground that the tube screamer area of pedals does, as well as the Timmy pedals just between those two. So it's quite versatile and basically saves the space of 2 pedals. You can dial it in. Next in the chain we have the Slight Return Overdrive, which is another fantastic collaboration between Dave at Celestial Engineering, BigNoise, and also Warren Mendonça, who is the original Roger Meyer Voodoo 1 overdrive, which is quite famous and sought after, and this is kind of the version that brings it into the modern times and adds a few features onto it that are kind of a little bit lacking on the real one. We reversed the engineered the original one, we sourced the original LM308 chips that really make a difference in the circuit. Warren could hear that in a blind test, and that tells me a lot. We added a bass and a mids control and a 3-position mids switch for the center frequency, and that really allows for a lot of versatility depending what amp you play in and what other gear you have behind it. And we also added a vintage and modern switch. The vintage mode is the original kind of output level of the pedal, which is great, but can sometimes be a little too low in output if you want to push the amp behind it after it really hard. So the modern mode really pumps a few extra dB output on there and makes it that you have extra headroom. From there we go into another fantastic distortion, which is the Silver Jubilee distortion. Another design by Celestial Engineering and BigNoise Amplification in collaboration. It actually has 2 tubes in there, and the tubes are were originally designed for hearing aids. which is quite ironic, I think. It's lovely though. And they sound fantastic, and they have a very low power consumption, and they also don't get very hot. So they're totally fine in an enclosure like this, but they are real tubes, and they work with a charge pump internally on the voltage that they require to run at their optimum voltage, which is around about 30 volts. And that's from a normal 9 volt power supply. Sounds very martially, and really, like the name says, Silver Jubilee like. From there we go into this double pedal here, which is the wobbly bits. It's a bit of a prototype for me because I developed two other tremolos from it. So they're both tremolos. The first side is basically a vintage blackface type of tremolo, which I will have now out as the full moon tremolo, which basically captures the sound of the 1960s blackface Fender amps, and it works with the same kind of circuitry. It has a LDR and a little lamp in there, and really has this kind of very organic feel to it. And it also has a volume control added and a shape control, which makes it more versatile. With a volume control, sometimes you feel when you kick in a tremolo that it takes a little bit away from the push that you have in the signal. So being able to dial up the volume a little bit on the tremolo can be quite helpful to not lose the presence in the band context. And the shape basically changes the waveform from more gentle sine to a sharper, square, wavy type of shape. From there we go into a harmonic tremolo. This is my prototype of it, with a lot of controls on there, and I kind of simplified it a little bit into the golden syrup harmonic tremolo. Nick Granville from Wellington has done a fantastic video of that. I'll just link that in here, so check that out. That's the golden syrup harmonic tremolo. From there we go into another phaser. This is actually two phaser in one. This is a custom version that I did for myself. I will have to see how I possibly do something out of that for production. I dig this. Anyway, it is basically a version of the Mutron biphase, but it has an additional blend circuit in there, so I can actually dial in how much clean signal versus affected signal I have, and I've actually added that onto an expression output. So with an expression pedal I can dial it seamlessly in and out. It's quite involved. From there we go into what is basically a double tracker. Keeley has a pretty similar pedal, and this is made on a pedal PCB board. This is not my design. Then we go into another delay, which is also a pedal PCB delay, which I like. It's a kind of a tape delay emulation with a VF1 chip. I like to have two delays. Typically I have one on and then put a second one on if I want to have the sound even bigger. And it also reflects a little bit how a real room is. There's delays and echoes coming in different time frames. So having two set to slightly different delay times works really great for me. I have a similar one, which is the echoes delay, which is a 2-in-1 pedal. Check that one out. That also allows to basically have two delays set to slightly different repeat and feedback times, which kind of really sounds more natural to me to what a room really is. The last in the pedal chain is the tape machine delay, which kind of mimics what a tape delay does with 4 different hits that I can switch on and off. And of course delay time even allows to dial in the age of the tape, like getting it a little bit more lo-fi, or for more modern tape sound, like a little bit more crisper. From there we go into this here, which is a version of the BBE Sonic Stomp, and that's a kind of an equalizer which kind of polishes the sound a little bit more. Some people call it like taking the blanket off the speaker. And unlike the original BB Stomp, I modified this a bit again and made it into the BigNoise version of it, which has an extra mid control, and it also allows to set the center frequency of the high range and the low range of the Sonic Stomp circuit, which is basically a quite fancy equalizer. From there we go into another booster, which I often have on because it really pushes the signal at the end of the chain before it goes out into the amp. And this is a version of the sought after Korg SDD 3000 circuit, which is originally a booster in a delay circuit, and often, like the Edge for example, uses the delay quite simply for the effect that the booster kind of adds a little bit of niceness and shine to the sound. And also some producers have used it in the studio quite a lot to really add a little bit extra to the sound. And that's really the best way to describe it. It just adds a little bit extra sizzle to the sound. And you can push the signal if you wanted to, but I have it usually set to unity gain. I just like the effect that it adds a little bit of treble and bass where I want it. Last but not least, we go back to the junction box where the signal goes out, but before that does that, I actually have even an extra reverb circuit put in here, just a one knob reverb, which sounds very much like a Fender type of reverb in a pedal format, and does really a really nice spring reverb, and that's great to have when I don't have an amp handy or play at a gig or something that doesn't have a reverb on, or I don't like the reverb, I might like this better, so I switch this one off and turn the amp at the reverb at the amp off and use my reverb instead. So it's just in there, and typically I like just a touch of reverb on my sound, so it's always on. Yeah, that's my pedal board. Let me know if you have any questions, and just any questions regarding pedals and any comments, please let me know. Just be nice and fun, because this is all what it's about. Have fun with. Thanks again for checking in. Check out my other videos on my YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you haven't. Check out the other videos and press the like button, that would be fantastic. And spread the word. Send me a message at BigNoise Amplification. Check out my website, which is bignoiseamplification.com, and I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, of course, under BigNoise Amplification. Love to hear from you guys soon. Thank you.